Hi, welcome to My Minute of an Angle. I'm Eric, and this is take 2 on the Venturi Avenger. If you guys watched my first video, you saw that I had kind of an epic failure. The gun totally degassed and I couldn't get it to hold any more air. So, we're going to try it again. This is my second rifle. Set the first one back. We're going to give it a shot and see how it goes. Couple other things to note. The box seemed a little more rugged, like maybe it was sent back and they fixed it and then sent it out again as new. Don't really know for sure. You don't really see any scope mounting marks or anything like that, so I wouldn't say that maybe was or wasn't the case, just kind of speculative for sure. I don't see any marks on the rifle itself. Although the other one, when I got it, it was put in safe, and this one, I just noticed, was in fire. So I'm going to throw a bipod on it, throw some rings on it. I noticed with the other one that I had high rings, and now I'm going to use medium rings, or they're a little lower than the other rings. It's the only rings that I got. I got a big mess of rings over there that these are going to work hopefully better than the other one. For the 15 shots that I took, I was noticing that my eye relief was a little high and I was kind of having to pull my cheek off the stock. Oh, the stock. Anyway, with the magic of YouTube, you will see the gun or rifle with the scope and bipod on it in a second. I forgot something. I forgot the air bucks. Ta-da! Anyway, I mounted an SWFA fixed 20 power. It's 20 to 42. It's focusable down to 10 yards. Actually, it's focusable below 10 yards because when I put it on 10 yards, it seems like it's more like 8. But should be perfect for my downstairs range. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to make an I'm not going to do what I did last time. I'm going to air up the rifle and shoot it stock to let you see what it comes stock with air in it. But I'm going to actually top off the rifle. And we'll go from there. I think the method that I'm going to use is I'm going to turn the hammer spring all the way back, and I'm going to turn the regulator down to probably 100 bar and kind of go from there and work them both up gradually. So I use the term glass valve, so that means I'd be very cautious with how much hammer spring you give it, and make sure you have the regulator pressure to back up the hammer spring, because when it hits the valve, I believe that's part of what caused my failure before. But we'll go from there. Okay, so I aired the rifle up right around 250 bar because that's what was in my tank, and I don't feel like filling it up right now, so we're at 250 bar. And as I mentioned before, the reg was right around 2300. Now it's sitting right around 200 bar or 3000 psi once I filled the rifle up. In my opinion, they said it's supposed to come 2900 psi. It looks like it's a hair over 3000 to me, even with my old man glasses on. So to me, I mean, I don't plan on killing any elephants today. That's way too high. But again, like I said, I'm going to shoot the rifle just the way it was sent to me, and I'm going to go from there. I'm going to bleed all the gas out of it and probably start around 1500 psi, turn the hammer all the way back, and then once I see indications that the hammer's hitting too hard, I'm going to walk up the reg pressure. My guess is probably 1500 psi is enough if you just get the right hammer pressure on it. So that's where I'm at. Okay, there's a couple things I want to add to the unboxing and the opening of the rifle. I noticed that when I took this barrel nut off, and there was a little dent, made it kind of hard to screw the barrel nut back on. Like the shroud had pushed up against the air tube. But then I mentioned that the box looked a little worn, like something had happened, like it might have been refurbished. I noticed that there was no owner's manual in the box. So, as it stands right now, I'm going to shoot the rifle totally stock. I'm going to turn on my chronograph, see what we get. My guess is it's going to sound like an elephant gun too. So, we're going to see where we're at from there. I'm going to get the chronograph set up and we're going to go ahead and shoot. Just those couple things I wanted to mention.
Okay, for the second try with the Air Venturi. Got a big shot string there on the chronograph. Go ahead and tack it. My guess is the hammer spring is maxed out right now, as it was in my previous rifle, and the way they got the red pressure set, let this thing click all the way in. Chamber, not too bad. Alright, here goes the elephant gun. Okay, just to kind of let you know what I'm shooting the Diablo Kings 25.39s. 95 feet per second, that looked really low. To the right was barely on target. Chambered alright. 930, that's an awful lot. Okay, I'm gonna keep those right there. Doesn't seem to be chambering as smooth as the last one. 926. Fast. Okay. I'm aiming way high into the left. But we're just gonna get a couple off before I decide to tune gun. Seeing what's going on with the impacts. 921. Pretty dang loud. 932. So that's the way the gun or the rifle comes. Pretty much stock. 5 shots. I showed you the rag pressure before. I don't have my old main glasses anymore. Still at like 3,200, 3,300 psi on the tank, or on the tube, I should say. And let's see if the rag pressure changed at all. It's a little lower now. It's looking like it's right around 2,900 psi. So it did fall down from the original fill, just a hair. And I think this whole deal with the magic of YouTube is going to be continued until tomorrow when I get off work.
This segment of the video is geared towards me pointing out some of the issues with the rifle. This is me degassing the rifle, and you can notice the slow hiss that's coming out of the rifle. It takes about 10 minutes to degas. Here I'm pointing out the dent in the shroud. It looks like the shroud was smashed into the air cylinder. Makes it very hard to get the barrel nut on. Here I'm pointing out that the rail is actually, my scope is turned all the way out. This may have been why the rifle was returned speculatively, why say that? But if you notice, I only really get one, not even a full turn out of the elevation on my scope. And it's a relatively mid-price scope. I mean, it's not a cheap scope, and if you had a cheap scope, I'd imagine that you probably couldn't get the elevation required.
Alright, pretty cold out. Shooting out to 50. There at my first berm. Got a camera out on the target. I don't know if you can see it very well. The lighting's pretty bad. But I got a camera out on the target. I'm going to shoot what's left in this magazine. I think it's like 1 or 2 rounds. It's pretty freaking cold out. I'm shooting the JSB Hades 26 grain, right around 840 feet per second. Oh, I didn't have any left in that one. Burn. We're going to shoot 8 shots right at the center of the target. Then I'm going to close this one out, do a little closing comments. My finger is freezing. I'm just going to shoot for groups, because I don't have You know what? I could say left. Clicks down. Okay. Hold the thing.
837.
I'm bouncing all over the place. Cold.
833.
It's still really loud. Okay, there's 8 shots. Pretty consistent. I turned the reg down to about 2100. The tank was full with the exception of the 8 shots that I did before I turned on the camera, just to kind of get it sighted in. Like I said, I got a camera down there on target. We'll see how we did. And I'll close this one out. Okay, if you noticed, from the first scene to the last scene, nothing's really changed. But this is my closing arguments. I just kind of wanted to give a little intro on the gun for the first scene, a rifle. For the money, I believe you get what you pay for. Don't get me wrong, I do really enjoy shooting the rifle. It's a pleasure. The cocking is nice. There's just, I've dealt with 3 of these rifles. A friend of mine has one, and this is obvious 3rd one. Every single one of them had issues. Now, is that a deal breaker? No, not necessarily. The first one that I had obviously was the one that had the epic failure. Now, was it my fault? Maybe. There was nothing in the manual warning me not to tune it the way that I attempted to tune it. Basically what I did was I turned the hammer spring all the way. I dropped the reg pressure down to around 1,000, 1,100 PSI and proceeded to tune it just like I would do with my FX Impact or my Dreamline or any of the other PCPs that I've owned or own currently. So what had happened, or what I believed happened, was the hammer was hitting the valve so hard that it caused the valve to fail. That's why I came up with the term the glass valve. So I sent that one back and got another one. This one also has some issues. If you'll notice in the video, I was degassing the gun. It degasses very, very, very slow. It takes about 10 minutes to degas it. There's a dent in the shroud here. I didn't get a manual with the rifle, so that leads me to believe that maybe it was sent back and then somehow the manual got misplaced. The box was in kind of a disarray. Other people have mentioned the same issue with there's no gas in the gun when you get it. There's no air in the gun when you get it. To me, and other people have mentioned in my previous video in the comments, that if you get one that doesn't have any air in the rifle, it leaks. And if you put air in it and it holds air, you're lucky. That's all I can really say about that. I believe that if you get one that doesn't have any air in it, and the manual does state to keep at least I don't know. I don't have the manual to refer to right now because I sent it back with the first one and I didn't get one with the second one. But I believe it says to keep the pressure above 1500 psi in the cylinder or in the tube. So that's another thing. My friend's, he can't get it to degas. He actually degassed it by dry firing it like 150 times or something like that. I told him that was a really bad idea and that he should probably figure out a different way to degas it, but that's the way he did it. Excuse me. It's the Wuhan. Anyway, that was the issue with his. So all of them had some issues. Now, are they deal breakers? No, not for me, because I actually like shooting the gun and I like tinkering with them, and that's why I bought them. This is going to be my secondary rifle. If anything ever happens to my impact, I'll be shooting this one. And maybe in the yard, maybe I'll tune my impact to go out on do hunting videos at farms and stuff like that and shoot slugs, heavier slugs, and just keep this one around to shoot the Hades, which I really like these because they do serious damage to squirrels and pigeons and sparrows, and they just for a pellet, and they're dead on. They're accurate. You don't have to shoot them that fast. That's one of the advantages of the Hades. You can actually, they're only 26 grains, so you can turn the gun back. I have the rifle set right now right around 2000 psi on the regulator, and I haven't actually done a full shot string to where I got, till I went to the reg pressure on the tank and seen how many shots that I can get. But I can show you the last shot string that I did. Shot string. Okay, I took 16 shots, so I shot 2 magazines. And if you look, my standard deviation is 3.2. My average was 837. My high was 844, and my low was 833. So with the tune that I have on the gun right now, at around 2000 psi in the reg, and the hammer spring pulled all the way back, hardly any hammer spring at all, I've got it maybe a half a turn towards tightening the hammer spring, and that's the results that I'm getting. So, that being said, I'd like to talk about the good of the rifle. It's fairly accurate. Is it as accurate as my impact? No, probably not, but it's really hard to tell because I was freezing my butt off out there shooting it. It's only probably 23 degrees outside, and if I heat my garage, then when I go to shoot out my little screen door at the 50-yard target, the waves from the heat make it pretty much impossible to even see the target or get it in focus at all. So if I were comfortable, I think I could get it to shoot considerably better. The cocking is very nice. I mean, it's not a Dreamline or $1,000 air rifle. It's a $300 air rifle, so you kind of, what do you expect? I actually expect it to be worse, and it's actually better than I thought. The stock, it's about as cheap as they come. It's junk. But, for a secondary rifle, it's not bad. One other thing, the gun is actually fairly easy to tune with some tinkering, degassing the gun completely and regassing it and adjusting the regulator. It's very sensitive. The turn, you don't have to turn it very much to go up. Actually, I'm probably a little higher than I want to be. I probably would rather be around 1800 psi and give it a hair more hammer spring, and it would probably, but with those standard deviations and that's acceptable to me. That's where I want to be with the rifle. I'd rather have it be a little lower on the reg, but it is what it is there. I'd like to thank you for watching, and one thing to remember is guns and beer don't mix, because you may shoot your eye out.